Hello, everyone, and welcome to Industries Live. This is a fun show we do where we talk to really interesting industry-specific AWS partners, talk to them about what are they seeing within their industries, how are they looking to adapt to the industry, to the opportunities, the challenges that customers are facing, and they bring us anecdotes, and we discuss them and hear really those deep insights about what's happening within the industries. This episode is going to be a media and entertainment themed episode focused on publishing and newsroom and editorial type of workflows. The show we're on is called Industries Live. So normally we stream every other week on Tuesdays. Our next stream is exciting because we're actually going to be streaming from the show floor at reInvent. We're going to have a host of shows there on December 4th, starting around 1:30 Pacific time. So I've got a QR code on the corner. So if you'd like to click that, get reminded about when we'll be streaming. We've got seven quick segments that we'll be doing. So definitely look out for that and tune in. My name is Jason O'Malley. So I am a senior partner solutions architect. I'm part of our industry and solution strategy teams for media. And I'm broadcasting live from Chicago. I mentioned that because we are live. It'd be great to hear where you're dialing in from, where you're watching from. And if you have any questions or comments during the show, it'd be great to see what's resonating with you. And without further ado, I'll pass it off to my esteemed co-host today, Stuart, to say hello as well.
Hello, everybody. I'm Stuart Lepkowsky. I'm the Global Partner Strategy Leader for Telco, Media and Entertainment, Games, Sports. It also includes betting and gaming. And I'm broadcasting live from our building in Manhattan, the Lord & Taylor building over on Fifth Avenue. And it's great to have you back and see everyone today. Today's conversation will be with some of our very interesting partners in the digital publishing space about generative AI and agents and some of the things we're doing with partners to help create content and help them monetize content and also how we protect content. And I'd like to welcome our first guest. Today we have Benjamin Barrier. Welcome, Benjamin. He is the co-founder and chief strategy officer at DataDome. And DataDome is an AWS partner with a great solution that gives publishers visibility and control over bot traffic. And I cannot wait to hear more about this. Benjamin, please introduce your company and yourself.
Hey, Stuart. Hey, Jason. Thank you very much for having me on the show. Always a pleasure to chat with AWS folks. I'm very excited. Great introduction about DataDome. We are indeed one of the leading platforms, I would say, that combats bot attacks and more generally cyber fraud, especially in the age of agentic AI. But I think we're going to cover that topic quite extensively in the next few minutes. And as you said, so I'm one of the co-founders and chief strategy officer at DataDome. I'm actually based in Paris. I'm dialing in from Paris today. And as I said, very excited to have that conversation with you guys.
And Benjamin, oh, go ahead. Yeah, thanks, Benjamin. Benjamin, aren't you a partner in our program with some very special credentials?
We are actually. So we've been working very closely with AWS for years now. DataDome turned 10 years old last May, actually, and I think we've been working with AWS for most of our life, if I could coin it that way. We are actually. I'm proud to say that we are ISV partner Accelerate. We've been on the marketplace for ages, and it's been a very exciting business driver for the company, actually. And we have several competencies, including media and entertainment. And I think that's a great illustration of the work that we've been doing together with our AWS teams as well.
Okay, excellent. And as we know, AI is changing how publishers create content and how users can create and actually discover it. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing in the space and how you're dealing with some of the bot, I'll say, traffic and activity. Go a little bit deeper into what you guys do.
Absolutely. Look, to give you a bit of background, we've been working with bots for about 20 years now. Prior to DataDome, our previous company, we used to run a media and social media monitoring company. And our job back then was to run automated scrapers to kind of grasp the evolution of opinion around brands, topics, personalities. So we've been in that industry for many, many years. To give you a sense of how prevalent the bot issue is in 2025, we are detecting and blocking in real time more than 20,000 bot and fraud attacks per second. So
did you say per second?
Yeah, per second. So
that is incredible.
Yeah, so it's a huge part of the internet traffic, and of course the AI is changing everything. For me, agentic AI is the real revolution that we are living through. That for sure. And I think one of the a key analyst firm in the US actually predicted that by 2030, 80% of the internet traffic was going to be composed of AI agents only.
Wow.
So that's a change that we are
change.
Yeah, it's going to take a bit of getting used to. That's for sure.
It's a bit of a paradigm shift.
Absolutely.
And I know, like when we talked last week in prep for the show, we were talking about, and then obviously, like, media publishers, like, this is a, that kind of dynamic shift is a major sea change for them. And I know you work with many of them. What are you seeing, like, that how publishers are starting to think about adapting to the space?
Yeah, so it's the impact is global for every industry, that's for sure. But I think that the media publishers, they are facing a critical type of dilemma. I guess. I mean, that the conversation that we've been having lately, and I have a lot of still questions. I don't have all the answers, by the way. So just trying to set the expectations here. But the publishers, they spend a lot of money to put out there very highly qualitative content. They pay, journalists and many experts to make sure that they can deliver that quality content to their audience. And with agentic AI and the LLMs all together, maybe they think that they have only two options. The first one being to block those LLMs, and this is what some of our customers have chosen to do. So blocking the LLMs to make sure that this very high quality content cannot be used without the traffic actually hitting the website, or kind of building a brand presence through these LLMs. So embracing that change, because I think that's one of the things I mentioned last week, Jason, is, and that might sound a bit sad, but so the generations to come, some of them will never open a newspaper in their life.
Yeah.
So you and I, we know the big brands in the news industry, and we trust these brands when we look for some information, even through an LLM at the moment. I always feel reassured when I see that small icon, that small logo that I know from the news industry, and that I know, being a trusted media. But the next generation, they might, they will not have opened a newspaper. So we need the media. They need to build brand presence and trust through the LLM, and to kind of know how to work with that new paradigm.
Yeah, what are the trends and impacts we're seeing that bots are driving, and how is it affecting our publishers? And what's the, I would say, pain point that they're feeling, and really drives them to go and look at you guys, DataDome, and use you?
It's a massive shift. I mean, we need to recognize that, right? There's a few things. The first one is SEO, as we know it, is the future of the SEO is going to be very different from what we know today, right?
Yeah, explain to our users what the SEO is. They may not know.
Sorry. So search engine optimization, basically. So there's a whole industry and many experts that have been working really hard to make sure that every time a publisher actually puts something out there, so publishes something on their website or mobile application, that it ranks good on search engines. And this is it's a key traffic driver for these websites. Nowadays, you have LLMs and agents. So, and I usually say, in my family, not everybody is particularly tech savvy, right? But the Ask search engine doesn't really exist anymore. You ask an LLM when you have a question, right? So what we see in the traffic of the media that we are working with is that, yes, they still have a lot of human and regular visitors, that's for sure. But what we see is that there's a surge of AI traffic that can be either LLMs that scrape a lot of content to train their models. They need a lot of data to make sure that their machine learning models and AI models actually work well. And we see AI LLMs addressing user requests. So someone who's might be asking about the latest in politics in a specific country no longer goes to a search engine, but they ask their favorite LLM.
So they're really getting a false positive, because a lot of the publishers, as we know, have advertising on their platform, and the bots are going to pass right by that, use the content and potentially give this false positive. So is this a driving factor on why publishers are looking at DataDome and what you're doing?
Absolutely. We provide two things. The first step is that we provide observability. What's happening? Because as you rightly said, Stuart, for the ad industry, there's an issue, right? Because SEO used to drive traffic to publishers' website, and then ads used to drive revenue. Now that search engine is no longer driving, or less driving traffic to the website, it's not going to add up for longer. But so they want observability, and then they want the opportunity to take action.
Interesting.
That's great, Benjamin. But would you be able to talk a little bit about, for anyone that's from our broad audience, about maybe the rise of how bots work now, and then to set up a bit about how, when you know how they kind of function, also what it would take to sort of to address those concerns?
Absolutely. That's a very good question. So I will start by saying one thing. It's never been cheaper and easier to build a very highly sophisticated bot. All right. When we first started DataDome 10 years ago, renting a good reputation IP address was pricey. Nowadays, you can rent, we call them bots as a service, for a few $100s a month. You can have a series of bots, highly sophisticated, which means they are using very clean IP addresses, which means sometimes residential, so the same type of IPs that you would be using with your phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are actually emulating real browsers, so the signature is perfect. This is what we are dealing with at the moment. And then how do we detect this traffic? It's what we call intent-based detection, which means that regardless of how perfect your browsing signature actually is, your behavior and the intent behind your browsing activity will allow us to detect that something is off and that you are a bot or an agent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just the way that the bot accesses the website doesn't sort of mirror sort of the dwell time or other characteristics of how a human would. So with your technology, you're able to spot some of those patterns. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating with agents is that intent detection, we are taking intent detection to the next level, right? Because tomorrow, you, Jason, you, Stuart, you might be asking your agent to go and fetch information or carry out actions on your behalf. And what's super interesting is that what we do now as part of the AI traffic detection is that we detect when it's an AI agent visiting the website or the mobile application. We authenticate which LLM the agent actually belongs to, and we can link that traffic, with user usage, which means that we can actually authenticate that it's you, Jason, or you, Stuart, that have actually tasked the agent to run something on your behalf. So our job has changed, right? It used to be simple, bad bots and good human beings. A bit less so now.
Now you have a sort of a pre-existing awareness of which agents may be sort of authenticated or be of a certain status that this is allowed traffic. And then as people's and users' search patterns evolve and what tool they're using to find content evolve, you're able to allow it'll shift to where you're able to allow sort of authenticated agents, but then still look to block agents that are not wanted by the
Absolutely.
publishers. Yeah,
But an authenticated agent might be allowed to run some activities and might not be allowed to run some others. Let me give you an example. If we spot an LLM, for instance, addressing a user request, this is something that that our customers might want to allow because it's, brand trust and that kind of stuff. So they want to make sure that their content can be used by the LLM when they are addressing a user request. But they might not want an agent to collect a lot of data at one given time because it's gonna require a lot of resources, bandwidth, for instance, and they might want to stop that from happening.
It also sounds like an interesting revenue opportunity. So when they allow agents to come in, right, bots and agents to come in and look at the content, are they also licensing this ability outward and using it to monetize their content in a new way? Is this something that a trend you're seeing?
Yeah, I'm very happy that you're bringing that up because so the first action I mentioned was observability. This is what's happening within your traffic. And the second step is action. And as part of this action, I mentioned blocking that traffic. I mentioned allowing that traffic, but there's also that third option that we offer to our customers is monetizing that traffic. And we work with a few partners in that area so that our customers, the publishers, for instance, can decide to put a price on AI traffic. It's a great opportunity. And I think it's the first time online content producers have had an option beyond ads to actually generate revenue online. So it's ads and subscriptions, obviously, to make revenue online. So very exciting.
It's a new middle ground of a new type of transaction that really didn't exist before. So instead of seeing it just as a change to the model, it's also potentially an opportunity of a new way to grow the business.
It'll be interesting to see how this new licensable space, I think it's a licensing agreement you'd have, evolves in more of a mixed viewership, right? Bot content, and maybe they'll even learn from the bot traffic which content has higher value, right?
Absolutely, because one of the pain points publishers have from AI traffic is what we call dark funnel. They no longer know what people are actually looking for in their content. And monetizing that AI traffic is definitely going to offer this opportunity, kind of making sure that there's full transparency as to what the agent is actually looking for and why they're actually looking for that content. So I think it's the best of both worlds. Hopefully, we'll see how it unfolds. But
it'll be interesting, Jason, to see if there's a domino effect where they start to learn from the bots and then kick off their own agents and bots to promote more of the content that's being searched for and deprivate the other content and create this sort of flywheel effect.
But what we already see is that, and that's going to be very interesting for the publishers as well, there's a shift in how people look for information, whether they go through a regular search engine and when they use LLM. The questions they ask, the three of us, I've always been using the major search engines, right? So, and I think we have designed our searching brain on the internet to use that engine. Okay, so we know how to actually use it and how to query it to get the information that we're looking for. There's a shift. People, when they use an LLM, they ask lengthy questions. They get into more details. Maybe they will share more personal information at some point as well that could be used to fine-tune the search results, for instance. So it's going to be very interesting, and it's also fostering a whole new ecosystem. There's already a few protocols in place. Maybe you've heard about MCP, which is basically the protocol about that is going to allow publishers and other websites and mobile applications to connect with AI agents in a structured manner.
What does the acronym stand for?
Oh, the Model Context Protocol.
Exactly.
I was curious. Yeah, I was thinking about asking that. Was just Obviously, that's one of the most well-known, but I was curious if you were seeing if it would still apply within this use case, but it sounds like so far what you're
Oh yeah,
seeing
absolutely.
that would apply.
Absolutely, and we just released MCP protection. I mean, just a few weeks ago, if my memory serves, MCP protection as well, to make sure that we cover our customers in a holistic manner: websites, mobile applications, APIs, and MCP servers. Because we have a lot of interesting MCP server discussions with our customers at the moment. Everybody's on that topic.
I can see that. I'm curious too, like, I would imagine that making these type of analysis would you need to be able to do that detection quick. And I know we talked last week about the AWS Edge services come into play with that. So that you have that low latency. I was curious, can you go into any more details as well about how you're able to leverage that for the low latency?
Yeah,
review?
sorry, absolutely. We work, so as I said, we work very extensively with AWS and a lot of the technologies that you guys actually provide. We've been at the edge, so we have a Lambda at Edge integration, for instance, that's also available through the marketplace. But so we've been operating at the edge as much as we can. So I was going to say since forever, but probably close to that, definitely. And we try to leverage as many and as much of the AWS Edge services as we can, because it's the earlier we see the traffic, the earlier we can detect. So the detection runs in 2 milliseconds, so there's no latency whatsoever. But the closer we are to our customers' technical stack, the better. So operating at the edge with AWS is perfect for us.
And I imagine that helps to, for a real user to not have like additional delay, and so their user experience is uninterrupted.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the user experience is usually better because we make sure that the overall websites or mobile app resources are dedicated to legitimate users. So it's completely transparent for the real user. It's really real time. There's no latency. So
that's great. That's helpful. And I know one of the questions that I think might come up every once in a while is like understanding if viewers or people in the audience know about AWS services like the web application firewall or CloudFront for CDN, and understanding, is this like how does DataDome solution like work with those sort of natively?
Yeah, I mean.
Or I should say complement them. I should say
complementary. It's very complementary.
It's doing something different than maybe like a classic web application firewall that might block, specific ports, and CloudFront doing the distribution. And it's like this exists in a space in between, those two.
Absolutely. I mean, if you use CloudFront, if you use WAF services, for instance, AWS WAF services and DataDome, you have the perfect combination to have a platform that runs really smoothly anywhere around the world. That's CloudFront aspect of it. You have full control because you can actually write rules or use a manage rule through the WAF, and that's really handy to combat like vulnerability type of attacks and really get rid of the most basic, maybe I would say, but basic not in a derogatory way, sorry, but the most technically automated traffic, I would say. And then DataDome comes on top of that to make sure that we detect the most sophisticated fraud, and we can guarantee that agents are, legitimate agents and the humans are well looked after, where illegitimate agents and humans are blocked or handled as our customers see fit.
It makes sense. It's interesting. It's like it's definitely like seeing this kind of like the combination of like working at the edge, using the intelligent prediction methods you have to be able to analyze that and detect when when it's a sort of a bad actor type of visitor. But preserving the experience for the legitimate users.
And just to add on that, we've designed DataDome to be the most connected platform when it comes to cyber fraud and agent trust management. And what I mean by that is we'll connect as much as we can, to our customers' technical stack, and especially to AWS type of items.
That's great. I was just looking at the clock. This always happens. We're always like get carried away into the conversation, but I wanted to see, Benjamin, from your perspective, any sort of like, as we start to wrap up, closing thoughts about where you see things heading and any other points you'd like to make about, where you see DataDome's biggest strength.
So maybe that's going to sound
like call to action of what you would encourage users if they're interested.
I mean, that's going to sound obvious, but it's not going away. What we are living through at the moment is not going away, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, I think, for all of us. We're living through something that might only happen once in a lifetime, right? And that's very exciting. But I think my recommendation would be, don't look away. The earlier you see what's happening within your traffic, the better. It doesn't mean, and looking through the traffic doesn't mean that you have to start making harsh decisions tomorrow, but you're going to have to make those decisions at some point. And a call to action, and I think we have a QR code for that, but feel free to, you can do that for free. With DataDome, you can open up an account, you can install DataDome. We have a full technical documentation. It takes I'm going to be the marketing guy now, but it takes a few minutes to get set up, and we are here to help you if needed, of course. And what that does is you will be able to see in real time, to monitor what we see within your traffic. Human beings, agents, bots, and really get a good picture at one given time of what's happening with your traffic. And this will help you, and we can do that for you to make the right decisions when it comes to handling agents.
Benjamin, thank you very much for joining us today. Congratulations on the 10-year anniversary.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a customer and a great partner. And I really love the fact that when we see bots, we are not looking away. We're encouraging people to look into the traffic, and it's opening new doors and new opportunities in our industry. And I think it's a fabulous message that, it's not always that a bot is something that you should look away from. I think it's an enormous opportunity. You guys are doing great work. I'll turn it over to Jason. Thanks for joining us today. Look forward to talking with you more. On behalf of our guests who are attending today, thank you. Jason?
Yeah, thank you.
Benjamin, thanks for joining. It's great to always learn about a whole new area that I really didn't know as much about. So thanks for enlightening us. And for our viewers, so that's going to be the end of this episode. So again, tune in for, if you click on this QR code, if you would be able to be notified about future episodes, you can check that out. And then we'll be right back for the second half of this episode with ArcXP. So with that, we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to AWS Industries Live. If you've been watching, great. Thank you for staying with us. And if you've tuned in part the way into the stream, Industries Live is a show we do within our AWS partner teams where we look at and talk to really interesting industry partners. And we talk to them, what are they seeing within industry? What kind of opportunities do they see to utilize AWS services and to build interesting solutions that address those cutting edge type of needs within industries? My name is Jason O'Malley. I'm a senior partner solutions architect, and I'm on the industry strategy team for media and entertainment. We have a media and entertainment themed episode today focused on publishing. I'll mention we are live, so if you have questions throughout, it'd be great to hear where you're streaming in from. I'm streaming from Chicago, but if you have any questions or comments about the stream, it'd be great to see as well. And with that, I'll pass it over to my esteemed co-host today, Stuart.
Jason, thank you very much. I'm Stuart Lepkowsky. I'm the global partner strategy leader for telco, media and entertainment, games and sports. It also includes our betting and gaming business with partners. I am broadcasting live from Manhattan, New York, in our Lord and Taylor building over on Fifth Avenue. If you're in town, shoot me a note over on LinkedIn and we can connect and talk more. We have an incredible journey today to continue with our second guest from Arc XP. I would like to introduce our friend and partner, Joe Croney. He is the Chief Technology Officer at Arc XP. Joe, welcome to the show. How's it going today?
It's great to be here today. Good to see you, Stuart.
You too, my friend. And could you give us a little bit about yourself and talk about Arc and what you're doing in the industry?
Sure. So I'm Joe Croney, as you mentioned. I'm CTO of Arc XP. I'm based here in Park City, Utah today. So great to have this global chat going on with our live audience. In Arc XP, we're a global SaaS platform. We partner with AWS. We're a cloud-native tech stack, and we actually power thousands of digital experiences for media companies around the world. We consider ourselves to be an operating system for media. We're part of the Washington Post. About 10 years ago, when the Post was going through its transformation from print to digital, they created this technology, and now we're using it to help the whole industry take advantage of AI.
That's pretty incredible. I'm going to talk a little bit about AI in the newsroom, agents, and also the work you're doing with videos. So let's go there. Let's talk a little bit about the trends and what you guys are doing in that space.
Absolutely. So lots of trends in AI. We've been going from a couple of years ago where we were all saying wow about what AI could do to really figuring out how we could use that technology. And 2025 has really been a year of now for Arc XP bringing AI to our clients. So some of the industry trends that we see kind of fall in three categories. We've got one around workflow in terms of using AI to tune up kind of specific parts of existing workflows in newsrooms. Then we've seen in the industry a lot of companies, and including the Washington Post, really innovate with new consumer experiences, bringing chat and RAG models directly to the audience, doing things like content generation and summarization and content moderation. So that's another big trend. But the one I really want to talk about today is this third phase. And we've been looking forward to getting to agentic workflows for some time now. And we've been working with our clients to really respond to the industry's demand for not how can they update the workflows they've always used, but how can they reimagine the way they do storytelling. And so that's really where we've been, Stuart, as we've gone through this year. I'm pretty excited about the AWS technologies that have come to bear to help us in that journey.
Yeah, I have to mention Agent Core, right? That's a new offering that we have in the area. I would assume you guys are going to be looking at that and putting that in the product path.
Yes. So all of our AI platform that we started a couple of years ago is built on Bedrock. We give our customers the choice as to which model in Bedrock is used for every action in Arc XP. And as we've moved to really bring agentic workflows in, that's where Agent Core is something that we've started to integrate into what we call the Arc Intelligence Platform.
Very, very interesting.
I think that we might have had a blog earlier this year. I think that dove into a little bit of the Arc Intelligence Platform, if I recall.
Yeah, there's been so many great events. You know, the industry has been wrestling with how do we get value out of AI, and so I'm on the road a ton, Jason, on these webinars like this, and the conversation definitely has changed a lot over the last couple of years, as has the tech stack. So it's a really exciting time to be a CTO, leading product and engineering teams, trying to figure out how they can go back to the lab and get value out of things like Agent.
Yeah, well, as we've talked about before, the industry is really going under a big transformation. There's reduced attention span for content. We need more content. We're looking to personalize content, and people want personalized content. There's a lot of cost pressure. So now is a really great opportunity and time for us to take a look at how to transform with the industry and the industry trends as that's going. And Arc has a great approach to doing that. Let's go a little bit deeper into some use cases and talk about where you're seeing those trends and how you guys are addressing that.
Sure. So I think the first trend worth mentioning is what Benjamin highlighted from DataDome. Lots of conversation in the industry about what do we do about bots? How do we address the decline in direct traffic that's coming from search engines? How do we address the reality that RAG models don't bring the same scale of traffic that we've always enjoyed? And so that DataDome partnership that we established earlier this year we launched something called the Arc Edge Integration Framework. They were our premier launch partner. And so now the thousands of Arc sites that run on Arc today can take advantage of that bot protection. But as Benjamin talked about, it's not just about putting a firewall in place. There's new monetization opportunities there, new things that we can do to really figure out how does the age of AI for storytellers not only advance the way we tell stories, but the way we protect our content and monetize our content.
I see that. And you're at that, I think, at that interesting intersection where you are building the tech to be used by the reporters and editorial producers, all kinds, to know like how to adapt that culture to utilize these new tools. I'm curious as well, when you're talking about things like agents and talking with customers in that space, is there certain what would you say that use cases that are delivering the most ROI or that are most exciting to the industry right now?
Yeah, so there's a lot of newsroom leaders I talk to that want to get the ROI from agents, get the ROI from AI. We did a study earlier this year with DigiDay where we published that most of that ROI is in simple tasks like headline summarization, doing translation, SEO keyword analysis. And those are improving and getting some value, but not nearly what agents could do. Stuart, you mentioned hyper-personalization. That's the kind of thing where we see really allowing our customers to own their audience, engage their audience on platform in a way that doesn't just make the team a little bit more efficient, but really is a step change for the business. On the subject of teams and workflows, media has very complex workflows. We get together and figure out how can we advance the art of storytelling? How can we take technology, but marry it up with the standards of journalism, our brand ethics, to make sure that AI is complementing the work we do, not drawing away from it. And I think that's been a really hard part of the conversation for the last couple of years. There's a lot of people that dream about what AI can do. There's a lot of newsroom staff that have nightmares about what it could mean for the quality of their work, for all the slop that's out there, for their jobs perhaps. And so I think that has been a friction point as we've brought this new technology to our customers and how they deploy it in their newsrooms. And so we were really thoughtful about how we design the tools to have human in the loop always be available, to make sure that we positioned AI not as a replacement for the amazing storytellers in newsrooms, but as a way to amplify the stories they can tell. And in the starting kind of gate, really getting rid of the tasks that no one enjoys. So that's been part of kind of the use cases for ROI in publishing. And I think we've got a slide in terms of talking about what agents could really do. So going from that optimization of the workflow today to something that we call scaling storytelling with a human voice. And that's really a challenge, I think, for the industry is how do we balance the power of AI with agents who are working autonomously as we go forward with those brand standards, with the journalists really feeling like they are a stakeholder in the newsroom, really like a colleague as the agents helping them along their day.
Yeah,
I know you had showed us that great visual too. I was wondering.
Bring that up.
Do we have that one with the AI storytelling? It might be 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think this is from probably one of our product strategy sessions. Here it is. So it's really capturing that we want to make sure agents are scaling storytelling and doing it in a way that reflects journalist standards. So we can have collaboration with agents, co-creation, so that it kind of reduces the tension in the room, because there's so many journalists that I see at the Washington Post and in the thousands of newsrooms that I'll visit across a year. And there's a lot of people using these tools on the side. They're not necessarily using them in the platform. In ARC, we've brought those tools front and center in a really thoughtful way, so it can deliver that human voice as we tell those stories. A couple of years ago, I remember being at NAB and talking about how AI is great at telling stories, but if we're using AI and your content can be replaced by AI easily, perhaps your story wasn't that valuable in the first place. And this industry needs to be really cautious about not creating commodity content, that's slop, and really doing high value content. And that's the kind of scale we're focused on at ArcXP with AWS's services.
I think Joe, I just wanted to comment. Joe, I think it's incredible that you're using the word tools. And since the beginning of time of creators, right? We always have the creators and their tools. And it's a great approach for our industry that we're introducing what we're calling tools. And the industry doesn't see this as something that's going to augment really what they do. And it's removing some of the administrative work that they would do and on the research side to decide which content is better to focus on and write more about. So I'm going to highlight for our users. I think, keep looking at this as tools and tools that help us grow our industry. And it's a great thing that our partners are recognizing also with our customers. Jason, you had a question.
No, I think you nailed it. I was going to say, we have this famous term on the AWS side. It's like undifferentiated heavy lifting. And it feels like that type of thing for, if you can take away some of that part of the newsroom experience and just accelerate more the high quality parts. How does that change the way the work is done? And I'm curious too, Joe, so when you're implementing and like from a best practices standpoint, when you're thinking about integrating AI agents and you're balancing those things, like you have editorial quality, integrity, bias detection, making sure that's they're ensuring bias detection is in place, and maybe even factoring in things like brand compliance. There's a lot of things that are balanced there. I'm curious, like what's been ArcXP's approach in terms of navigating that?
Yeah, our first thing we started with before a line of code, before a product vision, was actually an ethical mission statement and guidepost for how we'd use these tools. So the team kind of took a step back and said, what's the potential of AI as a tool, to your point, Stuart, in the newsroom? And how can we make sure that as we build tools and embrace the technology, we're doing it in a way that really reflects the brand values and avoids some of the challenges that could come from using AI inappropriately. So some of the best practices we saw were keeping humans firmly in the loop with clear rules for when AI proposes something to an editor, giving them the opportunity to approve or reject that. Being very sensitive, especially in breaking news context. Facts really matter. And AI can help do fact checking, but the last thing you want to do is have one of our customers, a broadcaster, put a big slate on the screen that's some AI generated hallucination about what's happening in breaking news when everyone's moving super, super fast. Another thing we looked at was really balancing how the AI models worked. We use AI today to kind of select keyframes from a video to help a journalist select what's going to really pop for a consumer to draw them into their content. And as we thought about those keyframes, we did balance the brand standards of what other content looked like, the actual video's content itself, so you didn't select an image that was unrelated, the ethical standards in terms of making sure brand safety was applied in those keyframes. And so getting that balance right was difficult, but what really enabled us to have a proper conversation of it was that original ethical guidepost for how we'd use AI within ArcXP. And then finally, we've encoded brand standards into our prompts, our policies, our review workflows. So every agent is actually trained to sound like our customers' newsrooms. Every newsroom has its own voice and standards. And so AI is great at ingesting those brand standards, but I can't really reflect how much time we've spent with individual customers getting it to be at the standards they expect, the high fidelity. I was surprised a couple of years ago when we started using a simple scenario like, can AI generate tags for the newsroom? And out of the box, we saw that with a RAG, we were able to get like 80 or 85% match with what actual newsrooms did. And when we went to some of our customers around the world, they said, Joe, that's not good enough. We need it to be 99+%. And so that required we invested heavily in vector technology. It required we really invest carefully in how we fine-tune the model to get it at that high bar. And that journey was a lot longer than I expected for that simple workflow. So those are some of the best practices that I'd seen. And, Stuart, you mentioned how we've used tools to great benefit in our industry. I spent a lot of time in the broadcast sector. And you can think about the tools that are now in a production studio, how we've taken a job which used to take 10, 20 people down to one or two that have the full flexibility for that storyteller to tell a great story experience with the tools at their fingertips. I think we're seeing the same thing with AI across other parts of the media spectrum.
And potentially some of those stories maybe wouldn't have been told in times past because the resources wouldn't have been a fit for what was available. So potentially it opens up a kind of storytelling experience or otherwise that wouldn't have been possible. before?
Yeah, Jason, I think that's that high value storytelling that's now possible, where you can double click on a story, go into more depth, because you're not focused on kind of the commodity storytelling that so many of our newsrooms waste time on today.
Yeah, and Joe, I don't think it reduces the volume of content being created. It's more personalized. So you're having a more personalized experience on news that you're interested in. Joe, you have a video to show us, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to show our take on the best practices for AI. We've got a video here of what we're going to be bringing out at the end of this year for how we have a side-by-side workflow where a swarm of agents, all built on top of AWS technologies, are working collaboratively with the journalist. So as soon as the journalist saves the story, what happens is you'll start seeing AI-informed tags get entered, summaries, doing style checks. And if you look closely, we're actually annotating which elements of the story were created by the agent versus the human, to really make it crystal clear at a data layer and in the UX where the agents have helped, and to make a review possible so that the journalist can go through and select which things they think are right, which are wrong, really go in almost an experience like we've seen in standard collaboration tools, where you'll be working in a document and one of your colleagues will be in there in real time editing it. We've achieved the same balance in our tooling this year when it comes to bringing agentic workflows to the front and center. As you can see here, it's also finding content that journalists may never have discovered. Because we have digital assets in Arc, we can find videos and photos and audio clips that might have been from the archives 10 years ago. Perhaps the storyteller that first captured that's no longer in the newsroom. And AI can do a great effort with the vector technology to find those nuggets that really enrich the story itself. So this is some of the best practices. We've had really good receptive feedback from our customers, from journalists, about getting that balance right between scaling storytelling with human in the loop and the right way of collaboration side by side with agents.
And that's a theme as well within like media supply chain archive part within media that you cross over into, where, you know, maybe historically a lot of that search was very much based on like, if it was tagged, you know, did it have any metadata associated with it? And probably for a lot of assets, legacy assets, that would be no, but with some of the ability to index, create vectors about assets, it makes them discoverable in a new way. And that archive that they built up more valuable as well.
Maybe we should spend like 5 seconds and explain to our audience who may not know what vectors are. Why don't you just do that for us?
Yeah. So that way that like when it sees that image and it can create a unique vector, so that then when you're doing the search and you're looking for those nearest vectors, and it could help you discover assets in ways that, you know, if you just had that previously, if you had like Boolean searching where it had to have like the exact text, you get some of those like nearest neighbor type of effects where it's like, hey, a human may never have made this connection before, but actually these two are similar in a way that you wouldn't have expected. So
it applies a numeric tag to that, right? Which is then searchable.
That unique vector. And then that's obviously with large language models and Gen AI, those unique vectors play such a big role in being able for the agents and the LLMs to operate.
Yeah, that's spot on. Those vectors really are mathematical embeddings. We are representing in this kind of virtual space all the elements of the asset. And there's a lot of technology underneath that. When you query those embeddings, getting the chunking strategy right. I know AWS has had a lot of great technology coming out. We'll be talking about reInvent in a couple of weeks' time around really bringing vectors to a lot of the data that sits at rest today without that great metadata that you need for these workflows.
Wait, did you say reInvent? I have to thank you guys. Well, ArcXP is a reInvent sponsor, so I just want to note that and thank you. That's a good reminder of who you are and what you're doing in this space. So thank you for that again.
And Joe, do you want to mention the talk that you'll be doing?
So on Thursday, we'll be presenting actually with AWS on some of these hyper-personalized workflows that use agents. So what we're doing is showing how you can take an asset that was captured for one modality, like video, and then using an agent to reimagine it for different modalities like blogs or podcasts or a social post, really increasing the scale of that storytelling. So it's called Audience 3.0. Which is a concept that we've observed in the audience, where Audience 1.0 was a place where media brands were really pushing content think newspapers and broadcasters. Audience 2.0 is where we've been with the web with a little bit of interactivity, dynamic home pages. Audience 3.0 is a concept of what we think consumers have moved to, where they expect hyper-personalized, immersive experiences, mobile experiences. You can think about the top social platforms, how different that consumer experience is than what you might see on a traditional homepage. So our goal is to use agents to help our customers make the leap to Audience 3.0. And I'm pretty excited about what we'll be sharing at reInvent.
It's great. And so thanks for pulling that up on the screen. So the AIM 3344-S. So if anyone's searching in the catalog, look for that and go see the session. Thanks for giving us a little preview. As we start to look at, so you showed us, and so is that view that you showed us before, would you say is the typical user a traditional journalist, or is it a variety of users? How would you describe it?
Yeah, so ArcXP is an operating system specialized for media. So most of the users in our tool are professional storytellers, whether those journalists that are working for a newspaper or a broadcast organization. But we see more and more influencers also coming to our platform and being interested in how they can use it for smaller scale storytelling. But that interface is where we are today. Many of our customers use our APIs to push it even further, where they're using agentic workflows that have a little bit less of a UI that looks like a traditional kind of editorial app. And it's more about autonomous agents that are doing a lot of the data collection. They might be drafting the stories. They might be selecting and doing the copy editing at scale. That's a little bit less of an interactive experience and more in which you're trusting those agents to do part of the storytelling. We think that's the future for our industry, but it's so important that we make a bridge to that world with the current newsrooms so they can feel comfortable trusting those agents in the future.
It's exciting. I'm curious, as you start to talk about looking forward with where you're at with the would you say Audience 3.0 or Web 3.0?
Audience 3.0, yes. There was Web 2.0, it's Audience 3.0. And that's, the difficult truth for media is we kind of lost touch with our audiences when we became so reliant on the search engines bringing us traffic. An exciting thing I'm seeing light up in boardrooms with the CEOs and CTOs and chief product officers as I go around the world is they want to reconnect with their audience. And so at ARC, we're trying to help them own that so they can get that one-on-one relationship again that we kind of lost over the last 2 decades.
We can't help but mention our CFO friends as well, because they're going to look towards what's the return on investment here. And this is a place for them to monetize, right? And so this is really opening up some new doors.
Absolutely. Yeah. ROI, it was pretty direct with the workflow enhancements, saving a little bit of time here and there. But if we can enlarge the audience that our customers hit, that's a lot easier to prove to your CFO when you look at the revenue you're able to generate.
And is there anything that, from what you've seen so far, any items stand out in terms of key elements that you're seeing a success in order to show that ROI?
I think the pattern I've seen be successful is to start with a set of high friction workflows in your newsroom, measure the cycle time for quality before and after of deploying those, and see the scale that you get to prove that value. Those are pretty easy to deliver, whether you're measuring how many languages you translate to, you're measuring how much time was spent on copy editing. Those are things which I think is great to build the momentum and confidence in the technology. I think another best practice is building on common platforms and being really careful about the technology investment. Early on, we made the choice at ArcXP not to build our own custom foundational model. I'm so glad we didn't do that. We counted on Bedrock giving us access to all the innovation that's happening on the frontier models, as well as the existing models that are out there. So I think really being thoughtful about your technology investment, so you invest where it matters most, where it will differentiate for you. You mentioned AWS has this concept of undifferentiated services. ARC has a similar pitch in that for our customers, we try to do that glue that they need for the core operating system so they can then invest in the stuff that really makes a difference for their business. And then finally, I would say, get your product team involved. Treat your agents as products, not just experiments. Think about them as having owners, KPIs, tight integration with your workflow tools, get the right analytics in place, have the identity and permission controls. Really think about each one of those agents as its product in its own. I think that's another best practice we've seen to get the ROI at the end. We use the Amazon method of starting with the customer with a PR FAQ. I think that's a fantastic way, especially with agents, to say this is what we expect to be able to do at the end of the project and keep referencing that as you go through implementation.
And always being able to do a checkpoint to see, are we still addressing that original need, or have we, making sure that you're guiding North Star. I think that's great, and it's been very interesting. Getting a sense of the behind the scenes of the editorial life, newsroom life, and also the media life. I know a bit more, but the editorial life is new. So I appreciate you sharing it with us. I was curious, anyone in the audience that's curious to learn more, or just wants to understand the space more, or wants to know more about ArcXP, any recommendations you would have for them?
Absolutely. So I think we show up at all the events. So come and see us at reInvent or NAB next year, or the many media and entertainment events that AWS puts on. Check out our website. I think we've got a slate that's got my contact information. Send me a note if you want. Look me up on LinkedIn. We've got www.arcxp.com. The QR code should bring you there. So you can get to know a little bit more about what we do. And as we look to 2026, the only way we're going to get this right on my product roadmap is if we hear from our customers, from the market, from the industry about what's going to create that ROI. I mentioned earlier, there's this framing that we went from the year of wow to how to now. I think 2026 could be the year of POW. And it's not the POW that I get here in Park City in terms of powder. It's really about the year of power, outcomes, and work coming together with the AI tooling. So I'm pretty excited to see how we punch through next year as an industry to get the real value of AI.
I'm excited. Joe, I like that. That's a nice send-off to the year.
Super special, Joe. Joe, I want to thank you. I want to thank ArcXP for being a great customer and partner and a sponsor at reInvent. And thank you today for sharing deep insights into what's going on in the industry, trends, and what's really happening with news and publishing. You've been a great guest, and the insights have been fabulous. Thank you on behalf of our audience today. And thank you again. Turn it over to Jason for final thoughts.
Yep. Joe, thank you so much. It's been a great episode to hear all things publishing. So thanks for joining. And I'll just mention, we talked about make sure you go see the ArcXP session at reInvent, and then also tune in for, let me cue up the QR code here in the corner. So QR code in the corner, the Industries Live Show will be at reInvent as well on December 4th around 1:30 Pacific time for the rest of the afternoon. So tune in. We've got 7 segments that are going to be really interesting across the most industries we've ever had. So it'll be a great insight. So follow along with the AWS Partners LinkedIn page and the AWS Partners YouTube page during reInvent. And with that, I think that'll close us out. So thanks everyone for joining, and look for us at reInvent, and have a great rest of the day.
Take care. See you at reInvent.